Grüß, willkommen in einem Fregens video. Welcome to yet another exciting video, in this case part 28 of my Star Trek TOS timeline series of videos. In this video, I will be discussing what we know about the Romulans. The next alien race I'll be covering is the Romulans, which seem to be distant cousins to the Vulcans. I have significantly less information about the Romulans, with only 2 episodes with useful information, but we can use the Vulcans as a template. As is my practice, let's look at the references in the TOS scripts and attempt to create a coherent view of this, also enigmatic people. In the episode of Balance of Terror, we discover the Romulans are an offshoot of the Vulcans. Spock states in Balance of Terror, if Romulans are an offshoot of my Vulcan blood, then, and I think this is likely, then attack becomes imperative. A good question is, when did the Romulans leave Vulcan? I would assume it would have occurred during the period of war in order to allow all records to be lost, basically in the time of Surak, or just before. If the Romulans had a primitive space drive, which took many years to arrive at Romulus, they could have arrived there in 400 AD. This gave the Romulans about 1600 years to colonise and populate their primary planet and then start expanding into space. While the theory is a bit of a stretch, in order to work I have to assume the lifespan of the Romulans was less than those of modern Vulcans, probably similar to Earth people. To populate Romulus in 1600 years, it would require a lifespan similar to that of humans, unless of course Romulan women act as baby machines, which I severely doubt. In the episode Balance of Terror, we discover the names of 2 main Romulan planets. They are called Romulus and Remus. Sounds very Roman to me. Also in Balance of Terror, we get a map which shows a 3rd planet, in this case Romi. United Planet Earth probably had 3 main planets, Earth, Mars and Alpha Centauri. It's reasonable that Romulus, Remus and Romi were similar for the Romulans. Perhaps Romulus was the original planet, then they tried to colonise Remus, and then just like Earth did with Alpha Centauri, they made a serious effort to colonise Romi. After that, I would suspect the Romulans went down a conquest path rather than the colonisation path. In the episode Balance of Terror, we do learn there was a war between Earth and the Romulans a century ago, which is called the Earth-Romulan War. The estimate is the war occurred about 2150 and may have lasted until 2159. I suspect the main fighting occurred between 2156 and 2159-2160. Also in Balance of Terror, we learn that a neutral zone was established by treaty after the Earth-Romulan conflict a century ago. In Balance of Terror, yet again, we discover Romulan ships during the Earth-Romulan War were painted with a giant bird of prey on them. This is also the case in 2264, at least for the class of spacecraft which the Enterprise had so much difficulty chasing down. In the episode The Enterprise Incident, the Romulans are using Klingon-designed ships. This was clearly done to keep costs down in the TV series, but it's possible a Klingon spacecraft was captured in a war with the Klingons in 2240, and it was reverse-engineered, especially because of warp drive, which the Klingons seem to have, while the Romulans seem not to have. In the Deadly Years, we learn the Romulans do not take captives, which may be one reason why neither side ever saw each other during the Earth-Romulan War. The Earth troops fought to the end, and so did the Romulans. Also in the Enterprise incident, we learn the standard Romulan procedure is to shoot first and ask questions later. Again, another reason why probably neither side saw each other during the Earth-Romulan War. In Balance of Terror, we discover the Romulans are creatures of duty, even if it means their own deaths. Very Roman. This actually occurs in both of the episodes which include Romulans. In the Enterprise incident, we learn the sense of Romulan duty included doing something which would cause their own deaths. And on the same topic, in the Enterprise incident, we learn the Romulans share the combined Romulan-Vulcan history of obedience to duty. In the Enterprise incident, we discover the Romulan execution of state criminals is both painful and unpleasant. The Romulans also have a tradition called right of statement if they're going to be executed. Spock is aware of this tradition. How he's aware of it, I have no idea. Perhaps it's a copy of a Vulcan tradition. In Enterprise Incident, we see Kirk, a human, is able to knock out a Romulan, indicating the Romulans lack the strength and stamina of the Vulcans. Kirk would have never been able to do this against Spock, for example. In the Enterprise instance, we learn using a transporter, both Romulans and Vulcans appear to read almost exactly alike, but there is a slight difference. Clearly the two races did diverge, I suspect because of the philosophic training which Surak implemented after the Romulans left. However, you would expect some deviation after 1600 plus years regardless. In Balance of Terror, we discover Earth believes the Romulans to be warlike, cruel, treacherous. And in turn, only the Romulans know what they think of Earth. I suppose they think Earth people are weak, etc. Who knows? We're back to mating habits. The Romulan women are apparently very different to the logical Vulcan women. I assume they like rough sex. Star Trek fan service, I suppose. One point about this, in my analysis of the Vulcans, Nurse Chapel seems to indicate Vulcan males typically engage in rather rough mating procedures. So perhaps there's very little difference between Romulan and Vulcan women in this case. Luckily for us, we'll never see an episode which covers this any additional details, or at least I certainly hope we don't. We have very little information about Romulan history, apart from the fact they left Vulcan a long time ago. After they left, they created an empire as large as the United Earth territories. In order to do so, they would have needed as much time as possible to build up their population and then expand from their home planet. If they expanded about the same time as Earth, they may have ended up with a similar-sized empire. However, they lacked friendly allied races to assist them in the war, and as a result their advance was checked by Earth forces, or at least this is one possible thought. Incidentally, we're also aware that there are 3 Romulan planets, so it's also likely there may have been some colonisation that occurred in early Romulan history as well. As Kirk was able to knock out a Romulan, and the Romulans do not have the same mental powers as the Vulcans, both races are very different in abilities. They do share their duty and loyalty, so there are some common elements, but they clearly lack the mental disciplines of Surak's philosophy, which may be the main reason why they are so different. The best example is the Romulans have interrogation techniques which would not be effective against Vulcans, which I have to assume are effective against Romulans. Thus, the Romulans share many common attributes with the Vulcans, but there is a significant difference which must be caused by the logic pacifist philosophy of Surak. And so we come to an end of my rather short part 28 of my Star Trek TOS timeline series of videos, in this case discussing the Romulans. The episode scripts can be found using the URL shown. Alle guten Dinge, kommen zu einem Ende.